Brock Lesnar always seemed too big for the world to handle. Growing up in Webster, South Dakota, he grew up with brute strength forged through farm work. By the time he was 17, he was a college wrestling legend. And at the University of Minnesota, he made his name as an NCAA national champion. He wasn't born to be just another guy. He was born to be unique. When WWE recruited him in 2000, they saw more than an athlete. They saw the embodiment of strength. Every suplex was an echo of his youth. Every victory a testament to his resilience. Within 2 years, he had become the youngest champion in WWE history. The world at his feet, millions in his bank account. Brock Lesnar had conquered it all. And then, in 2004, at the height of his career, he shocked everyone. He left the WWE to try his luck in the NFL. With no professional football experience, he was called crazy. But impossible was not in his vocabulary. The Minnesota Vikings cut him, but not before they saw his extraordinary athletic potential. Maybe the NFL wasn't for Lesnar, or maybe Lesnar was too big for the NFL. Having been shunned by football, Lesnar found a new calling in MMA in 2007. His UFC debut was against the seasoned Frank Mir. Lesnar lost, submitted by an unfamiliar knee bar. The defeat, however, fueled him. 8 months later, against Heath Herring, Lesnar didn't just win, he dominated, heralding a new strength in the heavyweight division. The turning point came against Randy Couture in November 2008. Couture, a living legend, represented the technique and heart of the sport. Lesnar demolished him. The uppercut that felled Couture was a declaration. A new era had arrived. When Lesnar became champion, he didn't celebrate, he roared. The world understood. Something primal and dangerous was at the top. The rematch with Frank Mir 7 months later was a masterclass in domination. The man who had finished him was now his prey. After the victory, in the center of the octagon, to a chorus of boos, he challenged the crowd and even his sponsors. "I'm going home for a Coors Light because Bud Light won't pay me anything." It was the absolute confidence of someone who felt indestructible. And for a while, he seemed to be. Champion in 2 different worlds, a cultural phenomenon. At 32, at the top, body and mind a fortress, the future seemed limitless. Then, one morning in October 2009, an abdominal pain. Insignificant at first, for a man accustomed to ignoring suffering. But this pain was different, internal, immune to his willpower. It was an invisible enemy which respected no belts or muscles. For the first time, the man who had never backed down would face a battle whose victory was uncertain. The pain, once a whisper, became a scream. Lesnar, who had fought with broken ribs, began canceling workouts, not out of weakness, but out of some incomprehensible malady. Doctors suggested stress, overtraining. He knew it was more sinister. During his training camp for his fight against Shane Carwin in July 2010, each session was a double battle, against his opponent and against the fire in his gut. Carwin punished him in the first round, and Lesnar felt his body rebel. But he channeled the agony. The takedown and submission in the second round came from sheer stubbornness and accumulated pain. Victory, but at a terrible internal cost. Months of tests followed. The pain grew, torturous. Lesnar, the master of physical control, was helpless. Finally, the diagnosis: diverticulitis, a potentially fatal inflammation of the colon. The surgery removed a foot of his intestine. Lying in the hospital, connected to tubes, the Colossus confronted his mortality. His muscles were useless against an internal enemy. The recovery was brutal, physically and mentally, relearning to exist without constant pain, while doubts assailed him. What if I don't come back the same? For someone whose identity was based on physical invincibility, these were terrifying questions. The media speculated about his retirement. The MMA world went on without him. But they didn't know the mettle of the kid from South Dakota who had learned that giving up was not an option. Diverticulitis had taken part of his body, months of his career, and forced him to face finitude, but it hadn't broken his spirit. In the darkest months, Lesnar made a decision. He wouldn't just come back, he would come back different. The disease had taught him about mortality. Now, he would teach the world about resilience.
March 2011. The gym, once the scene of his brute force, now witnessed an almost sacred return. 6 months after surgery, Lesnar was back, leaner, more cautious, more human, and, perhaps, more dangerous. The disease had taught him patience, strategy, and the value of every healthy moment. The fight against Alistair Overeem was scheduled for December 2011 at UFC 141. Overeem was a wrecking machine. Against a healthy Lesnar, it would be an epic clash. Against a Lesnar fresh from a battle for his life, it seemed almost a sacrifice. On fight night, there was a palpable tension in Lesnar. Not fear of his opponent, but the burden of proving that he still existed as a fighter. The fight began, and Overeem targeted Lesnar's body with devastating kicks and knees. The tactic was brutally effective. In the first round, a series of blows from Overeem to Lesnar's operated torso sent him to the canvas. Fight over. The defeat was crushing. In the octagon, after the announcement, Lesnar, with unusual honesty, announced his retirement from MMA. "Tonight was the last time you saw me in the octagon," he said, citing his struggles with the disease. The death of his MMA career, at least in that invincible phase, seemed sealed. The disease, and then Overeem, had exposed the limits of his once indestructible body. It seemed like the end of the line for the warrior. But Brock Lesnar was no ordinary man. The near-death experience and the setback in MMA redefined him. He returned to WWE in April 2012, not as the hungry young man he once was, but as a more experienced force of nature, aware of his own fallibility, but still incredibly powerful. His new WWE journey was marked by calculated and brutal domination. He broke The Undertaker's legendary streak at WrestleMania XXX in 2014, a feat that shocked the pro wrestling world. And in August of that same year, at SummerSlam, Brock Lesnar destroyed John Cena in devastating fashion to regain the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. He had come back from the brink of death, faced failure in his return to MMA, and yet he had climbed back to the top of a different but equally demanding world. The belt was back on his shoulders. Not the same belt, not the same man, but the promise of his return from adversity had been fulfilled.
Brock Lesnar's journey transcends sports. It is a testament to human resilience in the face of life's fragility. Diverticulitis didn't destroy him. It stripped him bare, forcing him to confront his limits and find new strength. He taught us that invincibility is not the absence of falls, but the stubbornness to get back up. His story, from youthful arrogance to illness-imposed humility to wisdom gained through pain, mirrors the internal struggles we all face. His return and subsequent recapture of a WWE World title after having his MMA career cut short by illness and defeat was not just a sporting triumph. It was proof that even when the body fails and plans fall apart, the spirit can find a new path to greatness. Brock Lesnar looked mortality in the eye, staggered, but did not give up. His legacy is not only in the titles, but in the courage to keep fighting, even when victory seemed impossible, redefining what it means to be a champion, inside and outside the arena.